Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another Tech Social. My name is Gabi. I will be your host today. We have Edgar here with us, which is always our moderator. Thank you, Edgar, for being here. And we have Fretzaida. She will have a chance to introduce herself in a minute. We will be talking about effective interview techniques, finding the right fit for your team. If you have any questions or any comments, you can raise your hand. You can leave them in the chat section. We will take them. And yes, welcome again. Thanks for being here. Edgar, over to you.
Thank you, Gabi. First of all, hey, Betsaida, thank you for joining, and really looking forward to hearing more in this session. I think we can have lots of fun, and especially, I believe this particular topic of getting the right talent for your team is critical, right? If not the most critical part, once that we are running a company. So really eager to know more about your experience and tips and tricks that you can share with us. Looking forward to that. So over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Edgar. Well, to introduce myself, I'm Fred Saida, but everybody calls me Fred. I'm a recruiter. I've been a technical recruiter for like 5 years now. But I started out in this world, I think 15 years ago, more or less, after I graduated. So I've been recruiting for all kinds of roles in different industries. And yeah, finding the right person for your team is very uh, worrisome for some people, and we need to get many processes in place and everybody aligned to do that. So I'm very happy to see all the questions that you have for me to answer. I'll do my best. I'm not a know-it-all, but I do my best.
All right, no worries. So let's start, by I would like to know in your experience, right? What is first, what makes a interviewing process effective? What should be like the first things that we should consider to think about this effectiveness when we are trying to get somebody on board in our teams?
That's a very good question. I think the first thing that should be in place is a good brief. Same as with any product development process, a good briefing gets you, the advantage of knowing what you're looking for, and more importantly, why you're looking for that specific talent. Um, a long time ago, we struggled doing briefs because we were like guessing, and we would just get wish lists from hiring managers saying, "Hey, I need this person to join." Sometimes they didn't even know if they really needed the person. And I
Mhm.
want these characteristics, right? Like a wish list, and we just go crazy trying to find the right fit. Um, but since Agile became more accessible to other areas, not just software development, thank you Toyota for that. Um, it was easier to start thinking about the real need and the costs related to not having that resource on your team. And from there, us recruiters will be more like, okay, this is a real need. Now, tell me what you're looking for. Tell me more about the environment this person is going to be in, so I can really assess, cultural fits and technical skills, so to speak. So we can start. And from there, as needs come, there's also the recruitment process that we have in place. So is it going to be 3 interviews? Why? Who should be interviewing these people, and what is going to be assessed in each step? So we don't want to make a process that is too lengthy and candidates are going to drop out in the middle, or we don't have a process where we realize later on that we are not assessing everything that we need to assess. So I would say that is the very key of everything, the brief.
Hmm. Okay. So what about that brief? Can you tell us more? I mean, like, what kind of things should be there? How did you guys arrive to that conclusion that we should have a better brief, or that's going to be key? So I think that would be interesting to know.
Lots of time lost during processes. That's how we came up with better briefs, for sure. Trying things that weren't working out. In the brief, there is something that was created some years ago called a lean recruiting canvas. A lean recruiting canvas is just a brief in a table for recruitment, and there different things associated with the problem that the team is trying to solve by hiring another person on the team is the first thing at hand. So if you have a real problem and if it can be solved by hiring someone, there you have it. You have your business case for hiring someone new. So if the solution to that is hiring someone, let's talk about it. There I like to include two main things, which is the company's selling points, or what makes the company attractive to the candidates. There are many people who are very talented out there, so we need to know how do we show what we have and make it appealing for them. So the company's selling points are very key to show here. And also the value that this person is going to be adding to that team. So they know at a personal level what is exciting for them, and at a company level what is exciting for them. And from there, we talk about the ideal candidate, right? Should they have a specific background in education or in industries, and technical skills, and then cultural skills. So there you have like the first step that I like to call company, role, and characteristics. And then another thing that is very important and is included in the lean recruiting canvas is the key metrics to measure the whole process. So what are we going to do? We have a first call with the recruiter, and then how do we measure that we're being successful? I like to keep into consideration conversion rates rather than just volume, because you can go crazy, and it depends on the role that you're looking for. You guys are very related to technology, and with software engineers, sadly, volume is going to get you there, especially if you have a process in place where you have maybe a coding test, and then a technical interview, and then interviews with the client. So if a process is lengthy, and that is very typical in technology, you need to get volume. Sadly, you need to interview a lot of people to get a few people by the end of the funnel. But I like to look for conversion rates. So how many people did we get from those very first two steps? It could be the behavioral interview and then the coding test, to actually be interviewed by the hiring manager or the client specifically. So, and you can see what metrics make sense for your specific role or need. But that is very key. That's how you're going to know if your recruiting process is paying off or not. And also the sources. When we talk to hiring managers, you want to get into their skin and into what they do to understand their environment. So if you understand their environment, then you have the answers as to where to look for these people, specific industries, specific places where they hang out. There's a lot of groups on LinkedIn or in other websites where you can find people gathering and stuff like that. So that is what the recruiting canvas entails, and also some things that we don't touch as recruiters, as cost structure or value added. But I think that is very important for managers to keep into consideration, because recruiting needs are very business related, and I like to say that recruiters are business focused. Because of that, sometimes you have a need. If you don't have the resources, you're not making the business grow. So that becomes a problem. So that's the main problem that recruitment fixes for the business.
Wow, so many great points
Sorry.
that you covered. No, 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 no. This is amazing. So actually, I would like to maybe break it down a little and kind of go over some of these things that you mentioned, right?
Sure.
And one of them is you mentioned for a couple of times now about finding real problems, right? And what is that process like? How do you help the hiring managers, or is there any kind of influence that you have there, or how do you help them find or visualize that they really have a problem or not, right? Because I suppose many times that's also the case that you don't really have that problem in the first place. So how, how
Yes.
can you do that? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have little to none power over that. Um, but I think the help comes when you're in the middle of the recruiting process and they see that, okay, do I really need this person? Because this is what the recruiter is finding. I think the best thing we can do is to show them how the market is. And sometimes we have different ideas as to the cost of having someone new. For
Mhm.
example, I've seen in my experience teams that are very that have been within the company for a very long time. So salaries tend to, be separated from the reality of the market. The market is unalive. I think that is alive and it changes constantly. Um, so sometimes they see, okay, I want this, but the cost is really high. How can I accommodate my team to achieve these goals without hiring a person? So the help comes there as well, giving your insights on the market because hiring managers know everything about their jobs and their teams and how to function, but they don't know a lot about the market. So I think we
Mhm.
can help them out by giving them those insights. And sometimes rethinking the need is results in, okay, the position is canceled. We found another way. Um, I like to ask sometimes if they have um, searched for someone within their company first, which is great. It makes everybody grow. Um,
Mhm.
and sometimes there is a real need, and it depends on the company. For example, for consultancy firms,
Mhm.
the needs are very clear. It's like, okay, we open this role, we don't have anyone on the bench, we don't have everybody's smashed out, swamped with work. We really need a person. So those needs tend to be more real,
Okay.
and the fright for recruiters come because if we don't have the person within the stipulated dates, the company starts losing money. So that's the real pressure.
Okay. Very, very interesting. So you mentioned another thing now that you said something around within their company. So does that mean that you work with different companies at a time, or you have like a full-time role? And what's the difference between working for one particular company versus working for multiple, more like a freelancing, maybe? So yeah,
Yeah, that's a
can you
very
tell
good
us more about
question.
that? Mhm.
Sure. So in my experience, I've worked in-house as an in-house recruiter, and more recently for a staff augmentation company. And those are two different worlds. It's amazing the gap of between one thing to the other. In the first, I think both have been consultancy firms, in which I've been an in-house recruiter. Yeah. So the particular things that when you're an in-house recruiter, you have everything at your advantage, right? You have all the insights about the company, you know how they work, you know what they do, what they need to build, which is great. So you can cover the first couple of things about the lean recruiting canvas, just by heart. You already know this. But when you're working in a staff augmentation company, you need to constantly adapt to new clients and figure out how to quickly get all these answers. Um,
Mm.
Typically, in this type of companies, you don't have direct communication with the clients, which is not always good, but you talk with an account manager or someone who is in talks with the clients. So yeah, that is another type of challenge, to get all the information that you need. But there's when curiosity plays a key role in a recruiter. So I look for the company, look what they do, look for the people involved. If I can get the names of the people who are the hiring managers and who are involved, I go there and look at the profiles, see what they do, what they've done. But that's the main difference. When you're working in-house, you already have all of this information, and it's easier to talk to your hiring managers and ask them everything that you need to ask them, as opposed to when you're working with external clients. If you're a freelancer, it's better because you talk directly with the client, so you can assess everything beforehand. It's a matter of building trust, which is not always easy, but it just takes time.
Okay. I'm just, making some notes here because there's tons of value here. What
Okay.
about this curiosity aspect? I think that's one of the key components, right? As professionals. Personally, I really believe in curiosity and, like just go and explore and learn more, right?
Yeah.
To me, the more information that you have, the better you can do your job, but at the same time, the better person you become. So, in what other ways do you feel this curiosity helps you while you are performing your work? And sometimes the other aspect that you mentioned, like looking at the company and the people that work for that company, I think that is not really easy to do because maybe you go to the website or you review things on LinkedIn, but how do you get or try to get beyond that, beyond just like the surface level, right?
That's a very good question. The To answer the first part of the question, I think curiosity is key because as recruiters, you're typically getting into other people's roles, and you need to understand their world and what they do. So I've become a specialist in design roles because of this. I started out not knowing anything about design, and then I got the chance to work with a design partner at a tech company, and he was like, I have two people on my team. We need to get lots of designers coming in. So I learned a lot about from him. So yeah, study. If you receive a role for X, study that. Try to get tutorials. Try to see where the trends are. And now AI helps you with that like a lot. Now you can, enter ChatGPT or Gemini for Google, and I that's how AI helps me really to look for new trends and stuff. So that's the first thing, because you cannot do a good brief. Going back to the first question, you cannot do a good brief if you don't know good questions to ask either. So I think that's how they complement each other. And then in design, you have a really good way of finding people, which is you not just have LinkedIn, you have like Behance, for example, you have Dribbble, you have other places where these people interact with each other and show their work. So by looking at portfolios, I can know like things that they've done. So it's a little bit easier. With engineers, not everybody shows their repos on GitHub and stuff like that. Maybe it's a little bit tricky, but that's how, at least with designers, I like to work. I'm curious, and I go and see the portfolios of the managers. What have they done? If they have work they've done within the same company, better. Because types of products, looking at types of products is very good to have people that can do what they are looking for the person to do. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely that makes sense. Mm, so I have another question. What about this? Do you have any technical background as such, or is it not part of your core formation? No. Okay. So how
No.
do you, how do you handle that part? I mean, like, you mentioned about these technical interviews, right? And possibly through your experience, you get to know more about technology. But how do you research then these kind of technical roles, or how do you know more about that technical side of the candidates when you are speaking to them, even though you are not really technical from the get-go, right? So.
Yes. I asked the team, what should we ask and what are the right answers? Um, and as I grew up with technology, of course, I had to learn that I'm 36 now, so I got accustomed to many things, many changes. But I do love technology, though. I do love reading about it and asking managers to recommend you something. Hey, where do I learn this? They send you a link of something, and there you go. Um, so that's another thing that we need to stipulate. Like, okay, what is my part and what is your part? When there are technical interviews in place in the processes, we have technical people asking those, but the more the recruiter can dig in, the better. So we don't do a lengthy process. But yeah, that's how I do it. I ask, where should I learn about these things? And maybe that's why I became like a specialist in design, because it was easier for me. I have a psychology background, and there's a lot of psychology in UX design. So that was similar. That was a similar point in the
Mm,
two.
okay, got it. And then what did bring you to recruitment and to looking for these kind of candidates? What made you decide for this career?
That's a very good question. So when I was finishing my degree, my psychology degree, I was never thrown by clinical psychology. I was more interested in organizational development and all of that. Big part of organizational development is recruitment. I love research. So I started out doing my first internship, my internship. And I was doing a lot of research with a specific group of security people. So I was doing all kinds of things psychology wise with them. And then the company said, "Hey, you're like interviewing these people. We need more people. Can you look for more people?" I was like, "Sure, let's do it." So that's how I became a recruiter. And then I was hiring management roles for them and stuff like that. And I never stopped.
Okay. And what about documentation? Is there any kind of books or anything like it that you can actually like look at when you're starting, or how does that look like?
Over time, it became easier with the boom of tech back in early 2010, stuff like that. Um, Lots of courses became available. Like, hey, do you want to become an IT recruiter? Here it is. I remember those courses were very concise, like teaching you essential things about development, like what is a front-end engineer, what is a back-end engineer, what do they do, what is a project manager, what do they do in the process. I took a couple of those, of course, um, and then when I was into design, I learned more about the product part, which I love the most, to be honest. And that's how I learned about all of this. So documentation nowadays we do have a lot,
Hmm,
but back in the day we didn't have as much.
right. Yeah, I remember when I can make like an analogy. When I started, it was
Uh,
more like trying to import some books, trying to to learn the new stuff. And it's true. I mean, it really has evolved. I mean, I'm speaking from the technical perspective and the things that I do, but back in the day, it was a bit more difficult trying to find information. It was more like I would say focus on observation and then practicing and then trying to fine tune it from there. So I was wondering how it was on that area as well. Okay, so I would like to go back a little bit. In another thing that caught my attention and most probably everyone's attention was this company selling points that you were mentioning. How important are they in these days? What would you say is like some of the strongest selling points that a company can have to attract new talent? I'm not sure if I may add, for example, working remotely, I think it might be something that is a strong factor now or at some point. But
Yeah.
what do you think about it? In your experience, what do you see as the strongest selling points for a company?
Yeah, remote work for sure. Like since the pandemic, I don't think anyone wants to go back to the office, like especially if the work can be done, with just your laptop. And gives you flexibility in the sense that you can, be in a state or a country and still do your job. That's amazing. And I would say the things that you do, but that touches more on what the person is looking for. So for example, saying what you do and the value that it adds to businesses or to the world is very key. So people are looking for that more and more nowadays. I've interviewed people who have told me, hey, no, I want to be involved in things, in projects that create or generate a better environment, for example. And I was surprised by hearing those statements. So I would say that yes, stating the way you work, like hybrid, remote, the perks that you have, like, hey, we respect national holidays for everybody. We have people from different countries, is very good. And also showcasing in a way that is very easy for people to understand what you do and the impact that it has in your business or in the world in general.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I've read about it in that more and more we as candidates tend to look for making an impact in some way, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that helps. And that takes me to what about this cultural fit, right? How do you assess cultural fit for a candidate, and how do you know that it would really match, right? Like the company that you are hiring for.
That's a good, difficult question. When you're in-house, you have more information and because you live the culture that you're in, right? So it's easier for you to see that in a candidate. Yeah, it is easier. But when you don't have all those insights from your own experience, you need to ask. And I like to ask hiring managers about their team. Who is this person going to be working with? What is expected in terms of ownership, proactivity, what they do. So that way I can ask questions to the candidate, revealing that, like, hey, how do you feel if in your first day you're giving lots of documentation, you just talk to your manager and then you're expected to do your work? How do you feel? Oh no, I will need to talk to more people. Okay, if the company is like that, like you're an owner and here's the Notion link, here's all the documentation about the project and the company, do it on your own, and the person doesn't feel comfortable, that's not going to work out. Or people who feel better working alone in their areas. And if they're going to be part of a huge team where everybody has like a little piece of the process, they're not going to feel good. So we don't move forward. But yeah, like that, like getting insights about the mechanics within the team and the company.
Okay. I think
Fred,
you
I have a
mentioned. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
please, Gabby.
Yeah, related to this. So what are non-technical skills that can help you in your job for like any role? Like we're talking about technical skills, cultural fit. So non-technical skills, what are those that can help you within your job?
We already covered curiosity, but I would say adaptability. I know the job is always the same, but the clients are not always the same, and the people that you interview are not always the same. So you need to adapt to different environments and getting to understand them. So if you're not flexible, that's going to be an issue. Feeling great, navigating ambiguity is also another thing that is going to give you peace, mentally, because we do a lot of things as recruiters, but there's only a portion that we can control. You're talking to people, so you don't know. They say, okay, yes, let's schedule the interview. We interview them, best candidate ever. Okay, let's move forward. They don't reply to you, or they do a beautiful process. And then in the end, they're like, you know what? I need to move countries. So I cannot accept this offer. So there's a huge part of the process that you don't control. So being able to navigate the ambiguity and the unexpected is also good, and it helps you prepare. Like, I have a great candidate, but I need to have 3 great candidates to make sure that I'm going to hire the right person in a timely manner. So,
And how
being
do you
able
manage communication with those who didn't make it?
as quick as possible, because people get anxious waiting for a reply. So I like to be candid about it. Sometimes I even tell people in the interview, if I see something that is mandatory and is not being met in the interview, I tell them, like, hey, we're really looking for this. I don't think it's going to work this time, but here's the job board. You can apply to any other roles in the future. And people are very open about it. It's like, okay, you saved me a weekend wondering if it went good or not. People appreciate honesty when I can give it to them. Sometimes I'm completely tied to the clients, and when they are still stipulating things and I'm not able to deliver responses quickly, that's when I get anxious. But what are you going to do?
Okay, my last question is, what are some effective ways to retain talent once they are hired?
Gaps. Choose an easier one. Wow, that is a very tough question, and it entails like more organizational development side of things. But I would say that keep the promises that you made when you hired them. Like, if you hired someone to work on X project and that was, your selling point about the project and the company, if you keep that, that is going to be good. When things are not met, that's when it becomes a problem. Rotation is very common, especially in tech. Late studies have found that if a person in tech stays within the company for a year, is good. It means that those promises are kept and all of that. And management is also good, so the person doesn't get frustrated and go somewhere else. 1 year and a half, amazing. But after 2 years, they start looking for something else. So that's like the natural flow. When you see people leaving before the year, that's when you should start asking questions about what you're doing and why they're leaving. So having good exit surveys and stuff like that, and touch points in between, like the first month within the company, the third month within the company, really help you assess like how people are feeling.
Got it. Thank you. Yes, Ed,
Okay.
over to you again.
Sure. Well, that was like super cool to hear, that part that you mentioned about keeping promises. I think that really makes it not only for companies, for people, like if you promise something, you have to fulfill it, right? And that also kind of gives you peace, right? Like mental peace, and you feel good about it because you know that pretty much you are doing what you promised you would do, and that's just amazing. So I really love that part. Thank you for mentioning it. and and you also mentioned something else, like things that you should look out for when you are, like having that much rotation internally. So I believe, I mean, that's also very important, right? What you kind of assessing what you are doing well and what not. And that takes me to another question that might be, a bit shocking, but at the same time, like super interesting to know. Can we talk about red flags? What do you think, and what do you see for you? What are like red flags for both, like for companies on the company side and also for candidates, right? Like what what should be that thing that we should be very pending on?
Yeah, I like the controversial questions for the end. That's a good move. I think for candidates, it's red flags is not always a red flag to see them jumping from company to company. I like to assess that by asking them, "Hey, was the contract short?" Or "What did you do there?" And typically they're very honest and tell me, "No, I was called for a project. The project lasted 3 months, and that was it. There was no more work for me." So that's perfectly fine. But red flags in terms of if they're going to stay here, it's hard to assess in the very first call. But what I look for, and this is more in a personal level, is how well you can read someone's body language when you talk about culture and when you talk about how you do things. So one of the things that I like to mention in the call is, hey, this is X company. This is how they work. This is their team. This is how they work. And this is your role if you accept this job. So if people start like, it's a red flag. So unless the person is amazing technically, and I can, tell them, okay, but you already know this is what's going to be waiting for you if you move forward. As long as we're in agreement, that's okay. And I like to give that information to the hiring manager as well. And if not, I don't proceed because it is not. I'd rather, and this is for recruiters in some occasions, that if we make a hire and if they don't stay for a period of time, we are responsible for finding another person right away. So I hate those situations. Like that is the worst thing that can happen to you. Like, okay, I fill the role, I move on with my life. And then 2 weeks later, no, this is a disaster. This is not working. You need to find me someone else. The project is already ongoing and I don't have the person. That's disaster. So I like to avoid that situation at all costs. I'd rather look for more people while I get the chance than being faced with that situation. And in a company, red flags, I think management is like the key there, right? Management takes a key role because they make all the decisions. I like to see, and this is at a personal level, how the decisions are made. Are we guessing or do we have data? Do we make decisions that are founded on data? And what is that data? How are we looking for it? So I think for any person joining a new company, seeing that if the company is organized and they have their objectives and a way or a model of going after them is a green flag. Doesn't matter if you're starting. It doesn't matter if you are there to put order to the mess. As long as you know that is your role, that is perfect. But a red flag for me is like, okay, we're guessing, we're just shooting there and making decisions and taking everybody with us without any backup data.
Mm-hmm. All right. It's amazing. You mentioned, firefighting pretty much. And can you tell us perhaps one story about some firefighting that you had to do and how did it go? I mean, it's just out of curiosity, but it would be pretty interesting to know how that looks like outside IT, you know?
Yeah, well, it's very interesting. I've always been called to put order to the mess, specifically with the design roles. It's like in the software development industry, it's more about software engineers and all of that, of course. And design is always in a side, like it's very important, but we don't have typically the people to dedicate time to it, especially when it comes to recruitment. So I've been called to put a lot of fires away. In processes, for example, hey, we are looking for a very senior product designer, and we cannot start the project without them. We don't have a process in place in recruitment for these people. We don't even know what to look for in a portfolio. So I've been called in to first start teaching people, like imparting wisdom. Hey, this is what we look for. This is what they do. I've been in charge of creating documentation when I start in companies related to that, related to the roles, the differences, and process-wise, trying to get technical people like designers, getting them involved in the process, and creating scorecards to see what is going to be assessed in each interview process and all of that. So far, so good. I like the mess. If I don't have the mess, it's like I don't feel so motivated. So I like working through the mess. But it's always, that's why it's always been the same situation for me. It's like, hey, we don't have order, we don't have processes. Can you do something? And I'm like, okay, happy to bug everybody with questions and try to make something work.
Cool. That's great. What about this mess that you're mentioning? I mean, it's like, does it apply also when you are actually interviewing somebody? I mean, do you like more like the structured way of interviewing, or would you prefer like more like an instructor kind of process? How much does it reflect? What would be like your preferred style in what would be the reason behind that?
Well, in interviews, when we're interviewing, we need to have order and organization and an objective. So the mess is within your team and you're trying to make sense of it. But I think if you go to someone and you don't know what you're looking for or a structured way of doing things, it's going to be 30 minutes or 45 minutes of your time that you're going to lose. So yeah, mess inside, but with the other people that you're talking to, never a mess. It should be organized and with an objective, definitely.
All right. Absolutely. And what about do you use any tools to create this structure overall and also during the interviews? What kind of tools do you use that you can tell us about, that you can recommend?
Sure. So applicant tracking systems, it's what we use in recruitment. There you can stipulate the scorecards, what is expected, even add the questions so every recruiter can jump in and interview people for the role. So yeah, I would say an ATS. Greenhouse is very famous, for example, Lever. Yeah, I've used a couple. Some of them are not user-friendly at all. Some others are very improved and they take user feedback into consideration, which is great. But I started out, with just a notebook and writing questions down and answers. So there's been an improvement there.
All right.
Fred,
And what,
you mentioned, oh, sorry, Ed.
please, Gabby,
You
go ahead.
mentioned you use AI to learn about roles or job descriptions. Is there any other, or are there any other AI that you use daily at your work that helps you, or not at all, or other than just finding the job description?
That's a very good question. So at a previous company, we had for some roles like a video AI tool, because we used to get lots of applicants for that specific role, and it was very tricky. So I would end up interviewing lots of people that weren't good enough. So we had in place like a video interview, and the AI will give us insights about all of the answers that the people gave to us. To be fully honest, it didn't always work that well. So I will watch the videos. But it was good to have that in place because it saved time. It saved us a lot of time. Then what I also use AI for is for something that is new to me at my current company that I didn't do before, which is creating CVs, crafting CVs. So I use AI to input all of the skills and stuff like that. So it will help me draft some text that I need. It makes it way easier and faster.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes, Ed, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a ton, but we are getting close to it, so let's see.
Okay.
The next thing that I would like to know is you mentioned that AI saves you time, right? So I'm wondering what other things saves you time and make you feel or perform your job more efficiently.
What other things other than AI?
Uh-huh. Perhaps some
Okay.
processes or I don't know.
Yes.
Sorry.
And this is time allocation.
Mm-hmm.
And this depends on the style for the recruiter. Some people really love volume and really love interviewing people. I don't do it as much because in design, I can look for people's portfolio and I can save time interviewing if I do that. So it saves me time dedicating more time to sourcing thoroughly rather than creating a post saying, hey, this is my calendar link, book an interview, let's talk. No, no, that saves time. At least in my case, it really helps me. I prefer to allocate more time to thorough sourcing and really reaching out to people that meet criteria, at least on paper. But yeah, that saves time because 30 minutes, 45 minutes in a call for someone who's not a fit, you're wasting their time as well. Like I'm very respectful of their time and my time. Like I wouldn't like to be poking someone like, hey, I want to meet you. Let's interview you. I feel like I'm wasting their time as well.
Got it.
Fred, this is definitely a red flag, but have you found people that lie on their CVs and then on the technical interview you find out, and how do you manage that?
Yeah, we have red flag tags on our ATS for that. Like, hey, this person showed these designs, and then when they were asked about specific questions about how they got there and their process, they were like saying things that didn't make any sense. Yeah, that's how we flag them. specifically within the ATS, like do not contact again, do not interview again, so everybody else doesn't waste any time.
Right. Yeah.
Oh
Great
my.
approach.
Okay. I mean, I always like to know from a professional, right, that we are interviewing, what comes next in your field? What do you envision how these particular recruitment practices would evolve in the future? And what would you expect out of it?
That's a very good question. So I think AI has given us like a huge scare in that sense, but we still find a lot of value in talking to a person. I find it candidates get really pissed when they are met with just an AI thing or a bot and they don't talk to a person. I find them saying, hey, on LinkedIn, hey, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to a person. I want to demonstrate my skills to a human being. So that's a relief, definitely. But I think more and more we're going to be relying on using AI to automate things and move faster in the things that don't require a lot of critical thinking. And then spending more time with people, like talking to people, and less time screening. I think AI is getting better at screening, like CVs and stuff like that. But when it comes to talking to someone and really getting into their experience and their interests, they still talking to a person is fundamental.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it really feels like more comfortable, right? And familiar. So
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
definitely.
I'm on that theme for sure. Cool.
Good.
All right. And have you found any new trends in terms of processes? For example, you mentioned lean recruitment, if I'm not mistaken. So are there any new theories or any new approaches to recruitment?
Mm, not so much. I think we hit a good run when we became more agile.
Mhm.
And we do this, we work in an agile way. We have dailies where we remove blockers and our and see, hey, this is pending. This has been a blocker for like a week. How can we do that? So I think getting into agile has improved recruitment a lot. Getting
Mhm.
more responses to people in a timely manner. Um, but I haven't seen anything like new. But when you are so into something, sometimes you don't feel the slight changes that come along the way. So
Mm.
maybe that's why I cannot identify something
Mhm.
specifically.
All right. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Um, so I cannot help it. And before finishing, I just want to say that your English is amazing. So I just would like to know more about how do you manage to. I mean, I'm thinking or assuming that you're not a native speaker. So how did you get to
Oh
that
no.
level?
Watching Friends, Seinfeld in the 90s. Not doing anything else besides listening to music when I was a kid and watching weird American series. Yeah.
Oh
Don't
wow.
have a better answer for you.
All right. I'll watch more series then.
I would do that as well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So that was just amazing. I just want to thank you, Fred, for all your time and all the amazing answers and knowledge that you shared with us. I really enjoyed this session, and I would be looking forward to having the opportunity to talk again. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Gabby, I'm not sure you have any closing comments, you, Fred? Something that you would like to add?
No,
Um,
thank you, Fred, for joining us. Yes, go ahead, please.
no, yeah, I was just gonna say thank you. I really enjoyed this. Whenever you want an earful, I'm here for it.
Sure,
Amazing.
definitely. We'll keep in touch for sure. Thank you again for being here. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Edgar. Those were really good questions as well. So yeah, we'll keep in touch, Fred. If there's any other topic that you would like to talk to us about, you're more than welcome to do so. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We'll see you next week on another social. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Amazing.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a
Thank
great
you, Fred.
weekend.
That was a great session.
Thank you. Bye-bye.